I'm Phil Brown, Operations Director at Link Integrated Security Solutions. I'm here today to demonstrate the Fog Guard unit using the HyperFog insert. The unit comes on a sack trolley for easy to move around the locations, and generally speaking it's powered via mains and battery. Before you activate the unit, you should power it up and get the actual unit up to full temperature. This could take up to 2 hours. So before going to the site, it's recommended that you get it up to temperature and apply the batteries and so on. I'll just take you inside the unit itself. To expose the unit, there are 4 butterfly screws on the side of the unit itself. Just remove those. And this will expose the workings of the actual unit. So you will notice that there's a cartridge to the left hand side, and this will be the fog canister, or the type of smoke that you're going to be deploying. This particular unit has got the standard Purifog, and it's indicated on the front. The unit you'll be using will be the HyperFog. This one is indicated by the label on the front, which is red. It'll also say Purifog Hyper on the front. Okay. For the demonstration, I'm going to use the standard Purifog insert. It works on a standard bayonet, so like a hose pipe. Just push the unit in, it'll click and hold into place. And just sits in place. You'll see on the front of the unit, we've got multiple lights. We've got a green light, a blue light and a red light. A little bit later on I'll zoom into that so you can see what it is. When the unit is powered on the mains and the battery is connected, which is down here, you'll notice a blue and a green light. If we remove the power, as in the mains power, the unit will indicate a red light. The unit is still able to trigger even though it's got no power, because it's taking its power from the battery. It's not recommended to run it on the battery all the time because it will suck the power, and it'll probably last a couple of hours in between charges. So we plug it back in again, and once it's plugged in, you'll notice that the red light goes out. This is indicating to myself that the unit is actually up to temperature and it's got power. You'll also see the green light, which means it's ready to go and it's triggered and charged. If the blue light and the green light aren't on, the unit isn't up to temperature and it will not trigger. So you must wait until it's up to temperature. So inside, I don't know if you can see that, but I will zoom in later. You'll see the lights at the front. Now the unit itself can trigger for anything up to 30 seconds. So dependent on the size of your site, you'll need to program the unit to trigger for 1 to 28 seconds. Now this is quite easy. I'm just going to unplug it just for a moment so I can spin around. On the back of the unit, you will see there's a button and a toggle switch. The toggle switch toggles between set and time. So in the right hand set, or as you're looking at it on the left, it'll be on the set. Flick the switch over to the left hand side, which is where the set time is, and hold the button for the amount of time you want it to trigger for. So if it's 1 second, you hold it for 1, 1. If you want it for 2, you hold it for 2, 1, 2. Now, the unit will indicate on the front how long you've programmed it for by the green light on the front. So I've flicked across the switch to the left hand side, and then on the front here, you'll see the green light is on. I'll zoom in later. By pressing the button, it'll flash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The unit is now programmed to trigger for 5 seconds. Flick the switch back from the set and it's ready to on. Okay, I'm just going to plug it back into the power so that we can keep it nice and warm. And the battery on the front, if the unit isn't connected, it's just on a standard spade connector. So push that back in again. Okay. As long as it's got power and the trigger lights are on, we're all happy to go. Now you may need to take the front off every now and again. We get around about 8 discharges per sachet, but it just depends how long it is. So obviously the longer the discharge, the shorter amount of time the sachets will last. When you're putting the lid back on, just be careful. Make sure that there's no cables at the bottom that are hanging out, and just be careful of the connections at the top. So just place the unit, or put the housing in place, just hold it carefully, look for the holes in the side, and just screw them in with the butterfly knots. Like so. Pop all 4 in. with me. The one in the bottom corners, because it is quite tight, the unit itself, just be careful not to over tighten them or to force the actual housing itself. Everything should be quite finger tight and nothing should need to be forced. Put them aside. So the unit now has got a battery inside, it's ready to go, it's up to temperature because the lights are on, we've put the housing back on and we've got power to it as well. Ideally you would power it up before when charging or when triggering. It'll just make sure the actual unit itself stays at temperature. And as I said, the minute it drops below temperature it will not trigger, so you must make sure it stays up to temperature. So just to recap, you will have the battery on, you have the power in, the front will be closed. On the back of the unit itself, we've got the toggle switch and we've got the time set button. So we flip the button or the switch across and hold the button down 1, 2, 3, and that can be anything up to 28 seconds. Once you've finished timing it, flip the toggle switch back to where it was. The unit's now ready to arm, it's ready armed, should I say, sorry, and it's also ready to go for say 5 seconds. If you're to hold it down for 28 seconds, it will fire for 28 seconds. Just going to unplug it, spin it around for you. You can see the lights through the front here. So if you peer through the window, you'll be able to see the green light. A bit difficult from the camera, but I'll zoom in a bit later on. You flip the switch across, look into the actual unit, and you'll see the light flashing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flip the button back, and it's ready to go. Okay. When using the unit, it's very important to wear PPE. So the minimum PPE we would expect you to wear, just hold one moment. You will require overhauls. So this can be the disposable type, the white ones themselves, with a hood, just to give you some protection to your clothing. A pair of latex or rubber gloves to protect your hands. And also a respirating mask. This is very, very important. This must be a P3 respirator with goggles as well, so it gives you a full face protection. You must not breathe in the fog from the hyperfog. The pure fog is fine, but the hyperfog cannot be breathed in. It must be used with a respirator. And if you bear with me for one moment, what I will do is I'll don some PPE so you can see what I look like with PPE on, and then we'll take the unit to an outside space and I'll show you how to trigger it. So we now have the full PPE on. We've got latex gloves, we've got overalls, and we've got the respirator. I'm going to take this outside just so I don't set my fire alarms off. Once again, but that's most important. So before you actually deploy the fog cannon, ensure that you've either isolated your fire alarm system, you've told the fire brigade that we're going to be testing it, just in case it sets the fire alarm off. If you haven't isolated your fire alarm system, this will deploy it. Okay? And it's very important that you also tell the fire brigade, even if you have isolated your fire alarm system, because if the smoke comes out of an open window, people will think your place is on fire and they will deploy the fire brigade. So I generally talk to the local fire brigade, tell them to put it on test for an hour or 2 hours, or however long you're going to ventilate the room for. This will mean that the fire brigade won't respond to any public requests for the fire brigade to attend. So I'm just going to wheel this to a safe place outside of this building and show you how to deploy it. And I'll put my PPE on when I get there. Okay, we're now at your venue. So outside space is actually your venue. So we're going to put on the full PPE. We have a fob. The fob itself has 2 buttons. We press the button A. For safety's sake, you may as well press both, it makes no odds. But button A is the one that actually deploys and triggers the fog cannon itself. Okay, so if you're going into an enclosed area such as your premises, ensure you're wearing the full PPE and take the unit out to sort of centre of the shop if you can, because then it'll help distribute the actual fog and walk your way out of the building. On this particular example, I'm going to take it to the end of the fire escape, deploy the actual unit, and you'll see it expel the fog. I'll just start a demonstration now. Once the unit has expelled itself, the shock itself will become consumed by the fog. It takes around about 2 hours for the fog to settle, and once it's settled, you can go back into the premises and retrieve the actual unit. Once again, ensuring you're wearing your PPE. Do not attempt to go inside a premises that's been protected with the hyperfog unless you've got your PPE on. I'm just going to demonstrate it now. Put my PPE back on and then retrieve the unit. You'll notice that the unit itself still expels a little bit of fog. This is due to the temperature and the residue in the tubes. So just ensure that the unit has stopped doing that before taking your PPE off. Okay? Once it's expelled, the unit is safe, you can put it back into your vehicle and go to your next premises. You can remove your PPE. We'd recommend you change your overhauls each time you use the unit, or at least at the end of each day.